Almost a year ago, I announced federal fraud charges against Mayor Jasiel Correia of Fall River, Massachusetts. At that time, I said the investigation was still ongoing. Well, we're back. Today we have unsealed additional federal charges against Mayor Correia for extorting hundreds of thousands of dollars from private citizens trying to set up marijuana dispensaries under state law, extorting a building owner for cash and a Rolex watch in exchange for approving permits and excavation work to turn on the water at a commercial building in Fall River, and as a condition of getting and keeping her job, instructing his own chief of staff to kick back to Mayor Correia half of her salary from each paycheck. So, in addition to the initial charges of wire and tax fraud relating to the Snow Owl Company, Correia is now charged with conspiracy, extortion, and bribery. In short, despite Mayor Correia's public assurances to the city of Fall River, based on today's indictment, he has essentially run that town as a pay-to-play institution. More specifically, as to the marijuana vendors, under state law, medical and recreational vendors need a non-opposition letter from the local head of government, here, the mayor, before they can set up shop in a given town. Correia had sole discretion to issue these letters, and he did issue them, but only if he first got paid. According to the indictment, usually through middlemen, Correia extorted hundreds of thousands of dollars from these vendors in amounts ranging from $25,000 to $250,000 when they sought non-opposition letters from the city. From 2016 to 2018, he did this to at least 4 separate would-be marijuana vendors in Fall River. Total agreed payments to Correia topped $600,000, structured in various ways. All involved cash payments. Some involved Correia and his co-conspirators getting a cut from future marijuana sales. In one instance, the vendor agreed to have his friends and family make donations to Correia's mayoral campaign amounting to over $12,000. In another, Correia allegedly simply showed up at a vendor's place of business with his chief of staff and asked for $250,000 in exchange for a non-opposition letter. In another instance, Correia was allegedly handed $75,000 in cash in the back of a car, after which he handed over a non-opposition letter in an envelope. This corruption also directly victimized the city of Fall River. By law, marijuana dispensaries must enter host community agreements with the towns in which they operate, under which they pay up to 3% of their gross sales to the town. According to the indictment, in one instance, Correia told a vendor that he would reduce the vendor's annual payment to the city under the host agreement if the vendor gave Correia $25,000. The indictment details other corruption involving Mayor Correia as well. In June 2016, an associate of Correia's bought property on Kilburn Street in Fall River that needed permits and excavation for a sprinkler system. The associate paid Correia a stream of benefits to get the permits and to get the work done, including giving Correia a Rolex watch worth about $10,000 and kicking back to Correia about $4,000 that Correia's campaign had paid to rent space in that building. Finally, the indictment also alleges that Correia even got kickbacks from his own staff. In approximately November 2017, as a condition of getting and keeping her job, his chief of staff agreed to give Correia about half of her $78,000 salary, paycheck by paycheck. Often in public corruption cases, the corruption expands to involve more people than just a particular public official, because it's hard for a high-profile public official like a mayor to pull this kind of thing off on his or her own. Cases like this one show the price of conspiring with public officials and of remaining loyal to them. Today we have charged 4 additional people beyond Mayor Correia, all of them Correia's associates, with conspiracy, extortion, false statements, and in one instance, bribery. Hildegard Kamara, employed in Correia's administration, conspired with Correia to extort marijuana vendors. Tony Costa, who owns several properties in Fall River, is also a friend of Correia's and also worked with Correia to extort marijuana vendors. Same for David Hebert, who also owns real estate in Fall River. He also conspired with Correia in his alleged pay-to-play activities. Finally, Genevieve Andrade, arrested this morning, is Correia's former chief of staff. She also conspired with Correia to extort others. Moreover, all 4 of these defendants are charged with providing false statements to federal investigators in the course of our investigation. Now, we've talked a lot about public corruption over the last 4 weeks. If you're looking for a theme, there is one. Public officials, even in seemingly minor roles, can have tremendous power over the lives of private citizens. If you have that power and you use it to exploit private citizens or line your own pockets, we will prosecute you. Ken Brissett and Tim Sullivan used their jobs to extort Boston Calling. John Lynch took a bribe to influence zoning decisions. Dana Pullman is accused, only accused at this point, of abusing his position to embezzle union funds, take kickbacks, and pressure private companies. And as I've said before, when it comes to public corruption in Massachusetts, this office is the primary, often the only deterrent to that criminal conduct. I take that role seriously. We will continue to pursue corruption, regardless of political party, at all levels of government in Massachusetts, including local, city, and state. If the allegations in today's indictment are true, Mayor Correia has engaged in an outrageous, brazen campaign of corruption, which turned his job into a personal ATM, victimizing not only the specific people noted in the indictment, but the residents of the city that he is supposed to lead. I want to commend the FBI and IRS agents who worked on this case. They did not relent after initial charges were filed back in October 2018. They followed through and they did the job right. And just to be clear, the investigation is still ongoing.